Prison life is by no means the best way of living. Like it's not already challenging enough, some deranged prisoners escalate matters and always get rough, resorting to violence even against their own cellmates, and eventually even slaughtering them. So, here is a list of some unbridled prisoners who lost their cool and eventually killed their inmates. Jamie Osuna, a man who believed and mirrored Satan. His dark side took a heavy toll on everything, including his cellmate Romero. Jamie Osuna was charged with assassination of a woman in Bakersfield and the gruesome killing of his fellow inmate. But his proceedings could not be continued because Jamie was found to be incompetent to stand trial. The judge, Randy Edwards, declared after listening to the corroboration from 2 psychiatrists who assessed Jamie could not comprehend the criminal proceedings against him, and hence was in no position to assist his legal team in building a defense. The proceedings were halted until Jamie was rehabilitated to stand trial, considering the fact that practically, if a person is not capable of understanding the proceedings, it would be a violation to continue the trial. The way Jamie killed was brutal. He was accused of using a jury-made dagger to excise and sever Romero's head. It did not stop there. He went to an unusual length by amputating his cellmate Romero's finger, an eye, including a portion of his lungs. Was Jamie always this way? Was this his method of torturing his victims? He was initially sentenced to life sentence for annihilating Yvette Pena at a motel in Bakersfield in 2011.
The murder of Yvette Pena, a woman he described as an acquaintance, he's been housed in a single cell.
Eventually, Jamie morphed into this dark, satanic man with tattoos all over. He went to an unhinged side of mocking the victim's family and openly admitting his penchant for causing pain and torturing victims. This sums up his conduct towards Romero. Romero was just killed, but he was tortured and killed by Jamie using a rough-edged razor. He cut his head and lacerated Romero's face on either side, creating slits that resonated a wide grin. The guards later found out that Jamie was donning a necklace made out of one of Romero's body parts. Romanos filed a lawsuit saying the jail staff and the guards failed to check everything thoroughly, although the Department of Corrections contested the conclusions of the report, stating that they had conducted a proper investigation since the commencement. The family's lawsuit also states that why was Romero with a cellmate with a distinct history of attacking his own cellmates? Justin Sterling, Romero's attorney, was dismayed at witnessing how Roma's mother had to sue to get the most fundamental and primary questions answered by the government and the officials. Although some people deem Stephen D. Sanderson a hero for manslaughtering his child molester, he outrightly rejects the claim. He presented his clarification for slaying before the Saginaw County judge. Later on April 22nd, he returned to the courtroom to hear the sentence. Stephen had his points laid out straight. He said he works on what he thinks is the best no matter who criticizes him. He also mentions that people do have criticized him for his actions.
Did what I thought was best in the time that I was given. I don't know,
He continued his elucidation further by saying that he does not judge anyone, including his child molester cellmate. He contends about the various emails he's been getting and says that it is not his position to censure anyone, and that God is in the only position to do so. He exhibits himself as the intermediary who sends the appointment up. Sanderson entered a guilty plea in February for assassinating a 67-year-old man, a resident of Greenhaven, serving a mandated 25-year imprisonment for a first-degree felony involving a physical act toward a minor aged all but 13. While Sanderson was serving a jail sentence without parole for the culpable homicide of his girlfriend in 1991 in Wayne County. What triggered Sanderson to kill Deer? Deer was Sanderson's new cellmate. Deer would not stop conversing about what he did and attempts to justify his sin, which utterly provoked Sanderson. He requested him to find a new cell the next morning and not to talk to him about this, but Deer did not control his tongue on backing himself up. Little did he know he was feuding with the wrong person. He knocked Deer unconscious and strangled him to death using Dyer's shoelaces. Later in the court, he admits that he indeed did kill him for being a child molester. Well, even though Sanderson himself was a culprit, this action justifies that every cloud has a silver lining. Derek Romano, who was initially charged for obliterating a pizza delivery guy, is now to spend an additional 17 years incarcerated for committing homicide against his cellmate. Derek was sentenced to serve 55 years for killing a 49-year-old pizza delivery driver John Sullivan in January 2014. Jeremiah Roberts was his ally in that incident. He was sentenced to a 68-year prison sentence. Derek and Jeremiah served their time at Wabash Valley Correctional Facility. Eventually, the two requested the officials to become cellmates, and they started to share a cell since September 26, 2019. But it did not go as expected. Something gore happened on the 3rd of May 2020. Jeremiah was found dead on his bunk. Derek admitted to the investigators about what precisely happened. He asserted that they had been drinking homemade wine the night before and were wrangling over something utterly imprudent. Derek eventually lost his cool and ended up beating Jeremiah. He underwent significant injuries all over, especially to his head and neck. Blood was smeared all over the cell, and Derek evidently had splattered blood and bruises on his feet. He left behind notes that read the time of Jeremiah's death, and another one that said, "Pray for the man who lived here and died." He mentions that Jeremiah is a person having better qualities in comparison to him. He openly admitted and pleaded guilty for the impassioned homicide of Jeremiah Roberts. Deshaun Madden was found guilty for assassinating his own cellmate Rodriguez Montes Brook. Was it intentional, or was it a fight gone wrong? Deshaun, an inmate at Alger County Facility, has been sentenced to a minimum of 60 years and a maximum of 90 years after the incident. He was initially sentenced to a minimum of 16 years and a maximum of 30 years. Deshaun is now meant to serve both the sentences simultaneously.
Did he probably do it? Or maybe might have done it? We asked that during voir dire.
The crime he was charged for initially was for homicide, burglary, and carjack. The feud with his cellmate led to Burke's death. He was wrapped in blankets in his cell. According to the autopsy report, Brook passed away from head contusion. Everyone had different perspectives on Deshaun's and Burke's relationship. Some officers believed that Burke mostly felt intimidated by Deshaun. The jury says if the cellmates asked to switch cells, the jail staff would have taken initiative, because no one wants the cellmates to suffer, and that the jail staff would not want to make the inmates living any worse. While the attorney of Alger County, Karen Barman, logically stated that it was no challenge to switch cells if that was the prime issue. Asking for protection could come out as portraying oneself as a wuss. But killing an inmate is indeed a bigger, quite unnecessary approach as agreed by everyone. It was also stated that Deshaun did not intend to kill his inmate and that it was only a mere fight gone wrong. Although the trial obviously happened after Burke's death, we never know what really was on in the cell and in between them. That was a list of unhitched prisoners who didn't think twice before they acted. What are your thoughts on this? Were the killings fair, or is patience the key to everything? Let us know what are your views on this in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed these spine-chilling stories, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell for more videos like this.